You know that.
He's
It's
from
Hollywood. Thank you all for joining us. I'm the council member Joe Buscaino from the city of Los Angeles and proud president of the National League of Cities. Welcome to our 2020 Congressional Cities Conference, where this year, record-breaking attendant numbers here, over 2,000 attendees from all across the country, different sized cities, and look at the beautiful faces behind me, this excitement that we are here, we are loud, and we're proud of the fact that we have come together to bang on the door here, the federal government, to make sure that our federal partners listens to us and they act quickly. Local leadership is critical to creating cohesion throughout our country. Cities, towns, and villages have a tremendous opportunity to usher forward partnership and positivity in a time of growing gridlock and change in Washington. The best way to move our communities forward is to promote partnership, leading together with other local, state, federal leaders. We can all overcome the toughest challenges that's facing our communities. It's our charge, and this is why our residents have elected us, and this is why we have come to Washington every single year. In fact, the last 55 years, we have come to this conference collectively, one voice. You know, issues like the outbreak of the coronavirus, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about cities being on the front line of dealing with this ongoing public health emergency. Local elected leaders have the responsibility to ensuring the health and safety of their residents. We are thankful for the federal spending package passed last week to allot $8.3 billion in this public health crisis. We're also looking forward to meeting with Vice President Pence on Wednesday at the White House. But we need to make sure that these dollars get in the hands of city leaders. We need to make sure that we don't have to check too many boxes to ensure that this $8.3 billion gets to our local leaders. We're excited this week. We have brought some key speakers to address this epidemic that's facing our country. This week during the Congressional Cities Conference, we'll have a town hall, as we normally do when we have critical issues facing our cities, towns, and villages. We're going to have a town hall about local preparedness and responses to the coronavirus with the National Association of City and County Health Officials on Tuesday morning, tomorrow morning. We'll also hear from Deputy Secretary of Health and Human Services, Eric Hargan, and Dr. Mitchell Wolf, Chief Medical Officer of Center of Disease Control and Prevention, about the federal response. I believe that our nation's most pressing issues and challenges are solvable if we tackle them together. And this is why we're here this week. And the beauty of the National League of Cities is we walk around these hallways talking about Republican. We just want to solve problems because we know how to do it. We are on the ground, and we are the closest to government people can face. So it's now my honor to talk and introduce, our second vice president, who's going to discuss some of the issues of the coronavirus facing our cities, towns, and villages. Our second vice president and mayor of Union City, Georgia, Mayor Vince Williams.
Well, good afternoon. And certainly it's great to see all of the leaders here on the front lines in our nation's capital. But certainly thank you for being here. We are in the midst of what many would call a crisis. But one of the things we've got to remember is we were not given the spirit of fear. We must remember we got to take away the fear factor. But certainly this evening, again, good afternoon. As my colleagues have said, gatherings like the Congressional City Conference are so important to local officials and the communities we lead. As representatives of our communities, we must continue to work together, learn from each other, and learn from our past experiences to make every year more successful and impactful than the last. We can prepare as much as we want, year in and year out, but new challenges will always arise. And our nation's communities will continue to be best served if we combat those challenges together. State, federal, and local governments Councilmember Buscaino hit it on the head. Cities, towns, and villages are the front lines in dealing with the coronavirus public health emergency. But this is a challenge where partnership can shine. Coordination between all levels of government is critically important in responding to a public health emergency. We each have our expertise. Local leaders understand the needs of their communities and are the best positioned to make emergency management decisions on resources and communication with residents. There are a lot of moving parts here, and the stakes are the health and well-being of our communities. I shared with NPR a few days ago some of the basics of what we need to be doing, not only in our communities, but in our workplace, in our schools, and even in our homes. It's common sense information. It's what your mother taught you, what Big Mama taught you. Wash your hands. Keep your hands out of your face. If you're sick, stay at home. If you're sick, stay in a room away from everyone else. It's just basic things. And utilizing the hand sanitizers, washing your hands at least 20 to 25 minutes vigorously. Seconds, not minutes. I'm a little aggressive, you know. I am a neat freak, you know, but for you, 20 to 25 seconds vigorously with warm water and soap. I know we've noticed a lot of the water here in the hotel and some of the restrooms has been extremely cold. But just having that soap makes a big difference. But certainly that's what we must take care of, is making sure we don't spread fear. That's the biggest issue right now. That is why I'm so proud of NLC's response to the coronavirus. Local leaders are on the front line, but NLC is right there behind us, providing us the resources to learn, share, and combat and be safe in our homes, on our jobs, and in all of our communities. I'd like to now turn it over to NLC's first Vice President from the town of Lexington, South Carolina, Kathy Manis.
Thank you, Mayor Vince. Well, you know, in South Carolina, if you call a state agency, they answer the phone. It's a great day in South Carolina. But today, with all of our elected officials from cities, towns, and villages all over our nation, it is a great day in Washington, D.C. Our cities, towns, and villages are the heartbeat of our nation. In most small cities and towns, the elected official is a neighbor, a friend, the soccer mom, someone you know and trust. And there's no surprise that local government is the most trusted government in America. And there's no surprise that if I go in Kmart at 7 o'clock in the morning, or if I go eat dinner late at night, they don't mind coming to me and say, Kathy, when y'all gonna do something about that traffic? We are the neighbors and the friends that our members of our cities and towns feel comfortable talking to. We do have some challenges. We are one of the fastest growing municipalities in South Carolina. It is great. We build a new school a year, but that does bring its challenge. So my neighbors do not mind, or the people that I see on the baseball field or at the soccer field, they don't mind coming and say, Kathy, when are you going to do something where we're doing it? We couldn't depend on the federal government. We couldn't depend on our state government. So in the town of Lexington, we're taking care of our problems. And that's what we do as local government. Residents in communities like Lexington are often the most engaged. They want to work with our local leaders to grow our community. And I want to talk about partnerships as a way forward, as a way to connect the dots from problems to solutions, from small cities like Lexington, South Carolina, to large cities like Los Angeles, California. In Lexington, our slogan is building partnerships. And we want to build partnerships with our citizens, with our business, and with our schools. Partnerships here between local leaders and community members, between state leagues and NLC, between the federal, state, and local governments. Those partnerships are what connects the policies of today to the advocacy of tomorrow. Local leadership and local solutions are critical in solving problems at the national level for communities, no matter what size. So let's get it done, and let's get it done together. That's what this year is all about, working together and leading together. Now it's my honor to turn the microphone over to Councilor Christiana Clark Encott from Redmond, Oregon, who served on the 2020 Presidential Task Force and can talk about NLC's work calling on presidential candidates and federal leaders to lead together in this election cycle. Christiana?
Good job, Captain.
Thank you. I'm here to talk about the importance of 2020 and what local leaders are doing to get our residents' needs involved in the national conversation. I'm proud that the National League of Cities has put forth the Leading Together 2020 Cities Agenda. It was an honor to serve on the National League of Cities 2020 Presidential Election Task Force. As a fourth-generation Oregonian, conservative woman in a solidly blue state, I'm considered a bit of a unicorn. But having served in local government in two distinct regions in the state of Oregon, I can tell you that I agree with Redmond's Mayor, George Endicott, who I've heard say there is no Republican or Democratic way to fill a pothole.
That's right.
Local government is there to provide public safety, public health, infrastructure, and economic development. Leading Together is exactly as it sounds, founded on the partnership between the federal and local governments, moving forward to address the needs of all residents. As local elected officials, it's important that we stay engaged with our national congressmen and women to ensure that they acknowledge our priorities and work to achieve our goals. Our national elected officials know that more than 70% of commercial activities are generated in cities and townships. Local elected officials are intimately familiar with the needs and wants of their citizens, as Kathy spoke of, because they hear them at the local grocery store, ball games, and churches. Since being elected to public office, my children are loath to go to Safeway with me because they know that a quick stop to pick up some milk can turn into an hour grocery aisle discussion on city garbage service or the snowplow schedule. Through Leading Together and the action and conversation at the Congressional City Conference this week, we are working to ensure local priorities are front and center in Washington, conventions, and in the general election. This is not a fight that stops in November, but a conversation that continues into a brighter, safer, and more secure future for our nation. It is now my pleasure to introduce Mayor Burke.
Good job. Well, good afternoon, everybody. And let me start by just thanking President Joe Buscaino and the CEO of National League of Cities, Clarence Anthony, for letting me be part of this. This is some of the most important things that we can do in our country is decide for ourselves what we want our policies to be, what we spend our money on, what's important to us, and for us to come together and across party lines, rural, urban divide, to spend some time and think about what's really important in our country and what can make us even stronger. That was a real privilege and honor for me. And you've heard this word several times today, but I'm going to say it again because partnership is at the forefront of what we do at NLC. We do partner with our constituents, we partner with private entities in our cities, but NLC creates the leverage to have partnerships across our country. And certainly one of the most important partnerships that we can have is with the federal government. And Leading Together lays out exactly how we can do that on a more efficient and effective basis. We're doing our part. Over and over again, cities are held to a higher standard than we've ever been before. People look to us for housing and transportation and workforce development, things that probably 40 or 50 years ago you just didn't associate with the city government. Now
we are asked to do these things. But we have to have the federal government's support to really get it done. And I know that this agenda, when adopted by the federal government, is going to make us even better at it. Let me give you just one quick example. Right now, we have, as a result of some flooding, some of the most difficult situations with roads. We have a central area that's closed down to one of our most populous neighborhoods, and we've been trying to get the federal dollars to help us repair this, but we all know that FEMA is underfunded, and the dollars that we need in partnership are going to take forever, so we're going to have to go fix this ourselves. That shouldn't be the burden of just Chattanooga taxpayers. That's why FEMA is there. We do this kind of engagement around our cities, each and every one of us, whether you're a mayor or a city council person. We know how important this is, and we're talking to people each and every day. As a result of the popularity of what we're talking about and the resonance of the Leading Together agenda, you've seen adoption by many presidential candidates, including, I'm excited to say today, Joe Biden talked about why he is behind the Leading Together agenda. That's great news. But no matter who is elected president and no matter which party it is, the National League of Cities and each and every one of us is going to be there to make sure that our agenda is at the forefront of those first 100 days. This doesn't stop at the end of this convention, doesn't stop at the election. It goes all the way through 2021 and the things that we need to do to truly help our constituents. Thank you again. And I want to make sure that I give a big shout out as I bring up to a truly transformative leader and the person who is helping us to make sure this is implemented every day, our CEO, Clarence Anthony.
All right. Good job, Andy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks to all of these leaders that are here fighting on behalf of cities, towns, and villages all over America. Imagine you are in the right place at the right time to make the right impact. We're in our nation's capital as leaders from all over America, representing every region, ethnicity, size of city, rural, urban, small, at the right time to talk about the right issues and to expect that our federal leaders are going to listen to us as leaders in our nation. The presidential candidates need to talk about homelessness. That's right. The presidential candidates need to talk about gun violence. Right. The presidential candidates need to talk about the workforce future and infrastructure, sustainable infrastructure. They need to be here talking about and learning about how we are going to make sure that everyone in our city is counted. They need to learn about the principles of home rule, where elected officials are elected to lead their cities. That's why we are here. And I want to make sure that you know that in terms of the elected officials that are here, that on Wednesday, when you go to the Capitol, we got to make sure you're armed with all of the information that you need to make sure that city issues are represented at the national level. So that's what we're here for. And we're committed to that, and we're going to make sure that we are ready. So y'all ready? Let's go. All right, let's go. So I'm excited about that. I mean, it really is the right time. This is our moment. And with that, I was supposed to just say hello and bring the press on, but I'm pumped up about what we do. So this is a press conference, and I want to provide an opportunity for any member of the press who may have a question of our elected leaders that are here that we can respond to at this time. Great, thank you. Or any member who is just, I shouldn't say itching, burning to ask a question of our elected leaders. Anything? If not, you've given me 10 minutes back, and I'm going to take those. But thank you all so much for being here at this press conference. And we thank you for being a part of the National League of Cities. Have a great rest of the day.
So